Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And now, the first full voyage with my guy, Mr. Steel Chambers, coming off a nice little NFC, AFC Conference Championship weekend. A lot of snow throughout the most of America. Now, Steel is down. You're down in Atlanta, you said, correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you guys were pretty good, right?
Yeah, we got nothing. We got like a half inch of ice, but overall, I think the meteorologists, they're probably lying about half the stuff they were saying.
Yeah, well, what was that like, first of all? Because you came, a guy that grew up in Atlanta, you spent 5 years up here in Columbus. How much different was that for you coming to a place where, it gets cold? Now, we don't get a ton of snow all the time in Columbus, not like Cleveland, but it still gets pretty cold pretty often.
I'm sort of used to the cold. I mean, I kind of adjusted to it pretty fast. And then I got a youthful soul, so I like the snow as far as playing in it and whatnot. But I wasn't ready for like April and May whenever you still got just a bunch of weird, like icy stuff on the ground. I didn't like that at all. But overall, I like the snow. I'll play in it. I'll throw some snowballs around. So I was a big fan.
I get that. That is the one thing I tell people. I don't mind the cold. I just mind the cold when it's still sitting here hanging out in March, hanging out in April, and you're just ready to turn the page and obviously get to some better weather. So yeah, we'll be digging out here. I was actually texting with Schlegs. Columbus is still in a level 3 snow emergency here, and it's going to be freezing cold all week, so the snow is not going to melt, which at all. So Ohio State actually called off Monday and Tuesday. And since they're in a level 3 snow emergency still, they haven't started lifting yet. I think they're trying to wait till they drop it to a level 2 to make the guys come in, but they're all sitting around there waiting. Did you ever have any time in college where they canceled class for you at Ohio State or canceled liftings?
I only had one. I'm surprised by that, actually. I only had one time, and they closed down everything. And then me, Tommy, Caden, Bryson, we were playing donuts, driving around in his car, getting pulled in a tire, I believe, just around the entire cul-de-sac. And it was fun.
Oh my gosh, that is wild and ridiculous. But I'm glad you got a chance to enjoy it a little bit, had some fun. So keep that monitored and keep that up to date. I know everybody out here in Columbus is trying to stay warm. Thankfully, we haven't had really any power losses, as to my knowledge. But it was a lot of snow. My shoulders are sore and feel a little rough here today. And try to get a lift in at the house with the Woody being closed. But some big news, Steele. Ryan Day a couple of years ago went out, got Chip Kelly, brought him in. Ryan, it was a guy that Ryan had coached underneath. They had coached together. They're from the same hometown. Obviously, connection. Comes in from UCLA, being the head coach there, leads this team to a national championship. Vegas pays him a boatload of cash. He goes out there, and it didn't fare so well for him last year. But after he left, they promote Brian Hartline, and he's the new play caller. Well, he gets a job at South Florida, where he's headed down there now. And so the question was, what was Ryan going to do? Would he go outside? Would he try to bring somebody in? People were throwing out all these different lists of names, from some former Buckeyes to NFL guys to some guys that were in college. And the wonder was going to be, would he keep it internal? Would he try to promote some combination of guys internally to see if they could do it? Would he go outside, and who would that ultimately look like? I thought that a lot of this was going to occur this week, and that, Ryan, after relaxing, getting done with the portal a little bit, getting guys in, that they may actually try to bring someone in this week. Well, it came out this weekend, and nothing is fully official yet, but it looks like it's going to be Arthur Smith, most recently of the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator. 3 years prior to that, he was the head coach for the for the Atlanta Falcons. They went 7-10 3 years in a row, and people were kind of upset that maybe he wasn't as good a head coach as you would have liked him to have been. But still, it seems like a pretty good match when you're going to do this and bring it in. And I'm curious how this is all going to break out for Ryan. But I think he wanted a guy with some NFL experience, and Arthur Smith definitely has a ton of that.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at what Matt Patricia did last year. A lot of people were a little iffy whenever he got hired, but next thing you know, they got the best defense in the entire country. So I think there's a little something to say about his relationship with these NFL guys whenever he brings them on. I was a little iffy because with the Falcons, you got guys like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson, and you just expect that offense to be a little more explosive, and they just weren't. But I think it's going to be sort of a good relationship that he has with Coach Day. He's really great in the run game. I think you add that with Coach Day's pass expertise overall, it's going to be a solid match, and I'm really excited to look forward to it.
So it's interesting because you're a guy obviously is from Atlanta, and Joe, your family still resides down there. I mean, he wasn't really overwhelmingly loved in Atlanta, was he? I mean, you get the sense that 7-10 3 years in a row. It's not that you were ever bad, but they were never really good, and it felt like maybe I know people what they're complaining to me is that they weren't as explosive as they could have been.
Exactly. Because, I mean, they were spending like every single year, they had a first-round pick coming from the offensive side of the ball and spots like wide receiver, tight ends, and running backs. And they wanted those guys to make an impact right away. And it just wasn't happening. Like, as soon as they drafted Bijan Robinson, next thing you know, he's splitting carries with Tyler Algier. So why are you drafting like a first-round running back and you're not utilizing them the way everyone wants? So that's kind of what got people kind of mad with him over here in Atlanta. But it's interesting because then he goes to Pittsburgh. It's a 12-13 personnel sort of team, so he has to change his play calling. And I see him change his play calling with Ohio State definitely this year too.
Well, it's okay. So you're starting to get on the pathway here. He goes to Pittsburgh, and they run a lot of 12-13 personnel. And for those, you listen to the show, we talk about it a lot, the personnel groupings. And so the second number is the number of tight ends. So one running back, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, 3 tight ends. People were lamenting that. That was like an issue they complained about with Brian Hartline and Day in the red zone going to some 14 and 13 personnel.
Yeah.
But part of it is too, Steele, like you can only call plays for maybe the positions that you ultimately have and where you feel really confident in. Not that Ohio State didn't have much, very talented wide receivers, but you start looking at Pittsburgh. I mean, outside DK Metcalf, they really didn't necessarily have the plethora of guys to choose from. And so maybe some of the personnel and play calling is dictated as much by your players around you as it is what you would ultimately like to do.
It absolutely is. And that's why I'm interested to see as far as Ohio State, because you're losing Carnell Tate, you're losing Max Clare. So there's a little bit of a question mark as far as tight ends. Like you got all the transfer portal guys, but they're very new. And then you've got guys like Chris Henry coming in, a wide receiver. So how's he going to balance out that 11 personnel, 12, 13, and just get an idea of what kind of players he wants on the field for critical situations?
Also, are you surprised at the speed? It seemed like, as mentioned, I thought it was going to be more this week that they would make a decision and meet with people. And I know coaching hirings, trying to get people to understand it's not like a traditional interview process where like you go in, you have these interviews. Like you have a short list of guys that you've probably had conversations with that you feel like you know pretty well or have an idea of what they're going to bring to the table. Maybe you have a couple formal interviews, but maybe not a ton. And hell, there may not even been a true formal interview, if you will, with Arthur Smith. But the speed of which this kind of happened, because it seemed like it happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think that's probably just because they liked him so much. And it was one of those things where, okay, that's our guy. He's going to fit our culture. He's who we want running this offense. So they probably just pulled the trigger as soon as he came in, did the interview, and they just fell in love with him. So I'm looking at it through a positive lens. Like if you're pulling the trigger this fast, then you definitely like the guy. And I'm going to trust Ryan Day. I think he knows what he's doing as far as calling and setting up an offense. So I think this is going to be a good hire.
You mentioned the trust Ryan Day. How much of that goes into it now, the fact that he's still a relatively young head coach, still in his mid-40s. But the fact that now he's been here since 2019, you were his first recruiting class, right, Steele?
No, I was technically Urban's last recruiting class.
Okay. So you were Urban's last recruiting class, but you were here for the entire era of Ryan Day from him taking over.
Yep.
And and you see that growth and development. I mean, he's a guy now that's been a head coach here. It's crazy to think. I mean, I think 2019 and on, I mean, we're going to his 8th season as the head coach. The trust Ryan Day, I mean, did you feel like he's earned that credibility, I guess, with the hires that he's made and the success he's had on the field?
Absolutely. I mean, you bring a team to a national championship 2 times and win one in your first 7 years. I think you've earned the right to have a little bit of trust with the decisions you make. And I guess I'm a little biased. I know, like, me and Tommy we went into a couple offensive meetings throughout our time there, and just the level at which
what was Tommy doing in offensive meetings? What was he bringing to the table there?
Oh, well, nothing. He's just sitting in the back being a wallflower. But I mean, we'd go in, or he went in there mostly, and just the amount of knowledge he had about pass concepts, just creating just an offense is just otherworldly. And coming from Tommy, who doesn't give a lot of credit to people, I realized that this guy knows what he's doing, and he got a lot of flack this year down the road as far as play calling, but he was just put in a tough situation. So he understands an offense. So that's why I have that trust that he knows that Arthur Smith is going to be a good hire.
The fit of that in the coaching relationship and scheme and system, Steele, like, talk a little bit about that, because you went through coaching change here. You went through shifts on both sides of the ball, and Ryan's an offensive guy, and having that alignment and that fit of understanding, like, your coordinator, you have a message that wants to get pushed, and you have a vision of how it's supposed to look. And people always say, well, is he the best coach you could hire? Well, is he the best? I don't know, but maybe he's the right coach ultimately to hire based upon how those things fit together and how these guys all work.
Yeah, because creating an offense, man, it's a balance of different things: running the ball, passing, motions, getting a defense off kilter. So a lot goes into it, and you got to find that right match that kind of matches how you want an offense to work. And I think that could be a lot of things, as far as maybe he uses a lot of motions. Now you understand what a defense is in, and you can attack it properly. And then maybe if you got a quarterback like Julian Sain, who's now in his who's going to be in his third year at Ohio State, now that he has a better understanding of the offense and he knows what a defense is in, now he can just play ball, he can play fast, and he knows where everyone's going to be on any given play. So I think it's just kind of finding that combination of getting the defense to show you what they're in, and then just executing your plays.
And so, we'll save this after, and we'll get to this after the break, because you're a guy so I like you, Steele, because you're a lot younger than me, so you've got a fresher perspective on these things than maybe I do when it comes to recruiting and what that ultimately could bring to the table. So we're going to take a quick break and dive back in to this conversation with Arthur Smith, him bringing in what he brings to the table, what the offense could potentially look like, and will it help in recruiting? This is a new era. It's a new age of how recruiting ultimately goes down. And is Arthur Smith, is this someone that could really help expand that recruiting? That was a great question that was thrown in the chat here. But first, we got a message from our friends at FanDuel. You know how fast the NFL game days move. One big play, everything changes. That's why live betting on FanDuel is a game changer. With FanDuel, you can bet in real time as the game unfolds. Score just flipped, jump on a new spread, or ride the live money line. That wide receiver heating up, bet the next touchdown score or total yards. Think that drive stalls in the red zone. Take a field goal prop or fade the total. Live player props, team totals, drive results, updated spreads, next play markets. It's all there. It's fast, it's fun with FanDuel, while your live bets move as quickly as the game does. So whether you're riding the momentum or fading the hype, FanDuel puts you right in the middle of every moment. Visit FanDuel.com/bigplay to download the app and bet the NFL live all season long. Must be 21 older in present Ohio, 21 older in present Pennsylvania. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Talk a little bit about the recruiting edge of what this could look like and what this offense could be reimagined under Arthur Smith. Coming up next on the Bobby Carpenter Show. I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer. All right, back here into the program, talking this Arthur Smith hire, what he could bring to the table. We'll get into maybe what this offense will look like, some of the things he did in Pittsburgh, how that translates through, what Ryan's good at, what he's good at, how to blend this and marry it. One of the things, you talk about in college, that's important. I think Matt Patricia has been a big as being a big asset in this area is the area of recruiting. And people didn't think Matty P was, be good at that. They saw him in Detroit. He was a little bristly, maybe not the warmest guy, which really wasn't his personality. Sometimes you just get beaten down a little bit in a situation and you kind of lose who you are a little bit. And I think that may have happened to Matt just with all the fires he was trying to put out and everything you had going on that was on your plate as a head coach. But the recruiting element of this, still bringing in a guy with NFL experience, that was some of the stuff that Ryan wanted to do the last time when he brought in first Bill O'Brien and then Chip Kelly. How much do you think the NFL aspect of that goes into the recruiting element of this?
I think it's huge because everyone's goal ultimately is to get to that next level. So who else would you want to hear from than a guy who has been at that next level and has coached there and knows what it takes to get there? So I think he could definitely use that to his advantage, like telling these young players, look, I've coached in the NFL. I know what it takes to get there. So if you come in, you listen to what I have to say, you're ultimately going to get there and you're going to achieve that goal that you set for yourself.
And so understanding that, and then the scheme element of it, and I mean, you played offense here, you played defense. Knowles was your coordinator every year, or was it Carey the first year on defense?
It was Carey my first year, and then it was Knowles the last two.
Okay. And so terminology-wise, like how things are built and constructed, and you played for Jim, and so we've talked about it a lot. Schleig's not here, like how he called his defense and some of the things. And there was a lot of great NFL concepts, but how things were structured word-wise, verbiage-wise, maybe wasn't quite to the NFL, quite the way a lot of people do it in the NFL. How much different for that was you when you had to go from something that maybe wasn't it was very unique as far as how people utilize it, getting that system and being able to relate as you move and go to, teams at the next level?
It was interesting because Knowles, he was big on just like fast, very fast words. Like everything was one word. Like we'd have a play called Georgia, and that tells everyone exactly what they need to do. And then you get to the next level, and then you've got 10 or 12 name plays that you kind of have to memorize, and it tells every single person what they have to do. And it's just kind of like, especially if you're a green dot guy, just getting that all out, realizing what every single word means, how it relates to each player. It was a little harder because with Knowles, it was just one word, and then boom, everyone knows what they're doing. I mean, we study up that one word. It was based on like location. It was a bunch of stuff. So I was a fan of the one word. Once you get into 8 or 9 plays, I've got mumble mouth, so I had a hard time getting that out. So
got mumble mouth. Listen, you're talking about playing with Tommy Eichenberg. Nobody could have more mumble mouth than Tommy.
No, once you're on the football field, man, he's like Shakespeare. He gets everything out clearly.
He's like Shakespeare. Still, I don't know if anyone's ever described Tommy Eichenberg, who we both really enjoy, as like Shakespeare, man. That is unbelievable.
I'm telling you, man.
Jeez, that's interesting. But you mentioned the one word thing, and you played in it. I mean, I've watched it, so I know that you have, a greater understanding about it. But that one word thing, I was always impressed that you guys could learn all of that. I grew up in a system where, like, hey, everybody was specifically targeted, so things could change for maybe the corner, maybe for a safety, maybe for a tackle. It might change the run fit. It could change my pass drop a little, but it was speaking to different people at every time. That one word thing, still, like the ability to memorize all of that seemed like a lot, because you could change one thing from Georgia and then all of a sudden you're calling it a different state or you're calling it a different color. And I always thought that was really hard to try to go in and memorize all of it.
It was, but a lot of it was done in the off season. And it's interesting because you get a bunch of football guys, like not a lot of people know anything about hockey. So whenever he put in the play Capitals, you have to learn where the Capitals were. Like you have to realize they are a hockey team. So that means we're in a simulated pressure. So there was a lot of stuff like in the winters and in the summers where you got to memorize your geography. You got to know like what colors certain teams are. And that was a little hard to do for a lot of people. Luckily, I watched a little bit of hockey, so I was able to understand it. But some guys, it just came a little more naturally than others. And it ultimately worked out. It took a little while to get used to, though.
Okay, so you're telling me that, because I didn't realize necessarily all of this. So all like simulated pressures were all like hockey teams?
Yep.
And then I knew, like the black, white, red, like those were more your traditional coverage stuff.
This
I
this
used to,
guy's
I used to call it like Bob Ross, the joy of painting. Like I called it the color wheel because everything I was always heard was a lot of colors. And then I guess there was like Rams that was in there and some different things like that. But there was always just so much to remember. And I had a hard time categorizing it as opposed to saying like, well, here's the front, here's maybe any stunts or blitzes or anything that are with it, and then like a coverage behind it and any unique things to the coverage. So there's kind of call things front to back and tag them off ultimately as they go, which is like a lot of what Matty P does. So I'm curious just with the Arthur Smith methodology, what he'll do. And one of the other things, Steele, that Ryan Day, and this is something that he's kind of leaning in with, where he wants to create what he calls, and Nick Saban did this, they called the Ohio State defense the Ohio State offense, or whoever is coming in here, you can have your own scheme of how you run it. But this is the terminology that we're going to utilize to keep it consistent for the players. Like, I'm paying you as a coach a lot of money to do this. You're one person. You change up your stuff, but let's try to keep it consistent for the guys.
I like that because terminology sometimes is the hardest part, especially like at the next level. That was the one thing that got me tripped up a bunch because a lot of like the Patriots terminology, it was the exact opposite of Ohio State. So I'd hear one thing in my brain, I'm going all the way back to Ohio State. Turns out I'm doing the wrong thing. So terminology is huge. I would love for them to just keep the same stuff and then implement a lot of his scheme. That just makes it a little easier for these guys to really just kind of just play faster.
Yeah, I like it. And that'll keep it consistent, you mentioned, for the guys. So every time you're coming in, you can do it. Keeps it consistent for the rest of the coaches. And so we'll see what Arthur Smith, I'm guessing that, hey, you can take kind of what your scheme you want to do, and then we're going to build it into kind of how we call things. The one thing that Arthur Smith I know is very good at, he's very good at the run. Mm-hmm. And you go back and look at his time. He was in Tennessee for a number of years before going to Tennessee for a long time. That's kind of where he cut his teeth and came up through the coaching ranks. Yeah, there for 10 years. And the consistency of being with some other coaches. But they had a hell of a run game there with Derrick Henry. And I think that's why Ryan targeted him. Is if you look at this, I think they want to try to get the run game going. Mm-hmm. And that's what Chip was so good at. And I think he's hoping that Arthur Smith will bring that same level of detail to that run game.
I hope he does because, I mean, you're getting a bunch of guys coming back on that offensive line. They're naturally just going to gel more. They're definitely going to play a lot better this year. And then you add that wrinkle of just having these different run looks that you haven't showed throughout the past couple of years and teams are going to have to prepare for. I think that's definitely going to work in the Buckeyes' favor. And then, of course, you got Bo Jackson, his second year. He's only going to get better. So you got a bunch of guys come in that contribute to the run game, and then you add on Arthur Smith and his experience with different types of runs. I think that's definitely going to help them. And that's Ohio State loves their run game. That's the one thing that they want to get going right off the bat every single time they step on the field.
So you committed to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I know you were kind of a tweener. You did some running back, did some linebacker, or you kind of looked at both. But you come here as a running back. And so you've got a unique insight into kind of leaning and looking at this. Bo Jackson's freshman year, kind of your thoughts. And then what is that jump that needs to happen? And how can it potentially happen within this run game of what you think he might be good at?
As a freshman, I don't know how he was able to do the stuff he did. I know whenever I came on, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I would go in there for a couple plays. I was scared of fumbling the ball. I wasn't trying to make anyone miss. I just put my head down, try to get 3 or 4 yards, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But with him, the one thing I like him to get better at this year is making people miss at the second and third level. I feel like anytime he really got touched, a lot of times he was going down. And I feel like a lot of that is just building strength, which is going to happen with another year with Coach Mick. And then the pass protection, because that's what gets you to stay on the field and third downs, being able to block big linebackers coming up through the middle. I think if he can do those two things, his game's just going to skyrocket.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, like you said, the biggest thing is that pass protection. A lot of that functionally comes down to strength and, getting in that weight room, the off season. We'll talk a little bit. We'll get into a little bit of that with you here next. Let's go into that because that's a huge jump. There were some freshmen that played a lot and guys who maybe need to take that next step, need to level up of what that looks like and then how it benefits you. We'll dive into all that here coming up next. But first, parents parents and athletes. Protect what matters most with Export mouth guards, trusted by professional athletes, designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouth guards are scientifically tested to help absorb those high-impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including a patented use of carbon fiber. They custom fit to your own grill with 3D printed technology for more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Visit exportguards.com/Bobby today and save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. We got more coming up, taking steps on the offensive side of the ball. See if these running backs can step up, make some big plays. Steve will break it down for us coming up next.
Come on, baby.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and doesn't taste like I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. All right, talking a little bit about this offense and guys, taking jumps in this running game and what it could potentially look like. And still, you said you were swimming that first year.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to go in, develop strength. Everybody always says that. What type of strength is that? I mean, is it upper body, lower body, a little all together? Some of the cutting, the quickness, the speed, that kind of comes with that. Just what is that process like? And as a running back, how do you try to functionally get that to work for you?
It's kind of dependent on the player. Coach Mick, he's very specific as far as what individual players needs. But overall, it's just jump higher, run faster, lift more. So, he's going to do everything in his power to make that happen. And for a running back, I think that a lot of that's going to be down low as far as leg strength. Because, you got to be churning those legs after first contact and get those extra 2 or 3 yards. And that's what separates a lot of running backs from the rest of the pack. I think that's going to be important as far as the run game. And just the overall offseason, it's just kind of getting together as a team, getting stronger, having a good time, and just kind of just building bonds. That's what a lot of the offseason is about, honestly. Yeah, we'll get into more of that as the week kind of rolls along here as they're starting off.
Level 3 snow emergency, so none of the Buckeyes in there on Monday as of yet. Maybe in the afternoon. No class for Monday and Tuesday. And this is the first week. Mick said this was the start of a 6-week for these guys. They were oozing in last week, Steele. So this is going to be a week where they really start to turn it up and ultimately crank it up there. This will be something we talk a little bit more about as we go. But, Pat, if you could pull up the jersey patches, and this is something that's been in the works for a while at the NCAA level, and they were trying to figure out a way to get it, to apply here and work for college. But the jersey patches, the advertising on jerseys, and what that looks like now. And apparently they have passed this, which I don't know, Steele. Let me just hear your thoughts on teams being able to do the jersey patches. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Understanding why it's there.
I'm not really even sure how I feel about it. I just don't want it to look like a NASCAR dude where you've got 20 different decals on you. But if you can keep it at maybe 1 or 2 and you're not to – see, is there usually an LSU thing right there? If that's the case, I don't like it.
No, they'll have the LSU. Everybody's a little bit different. Now they have the Block O that they put on Ohio State. A lot of them have that. But then as far as the rule is, you're allowed to have
two, I think.
We're allowed to have all D1 teams can add two logos on uniforms and 1 logo on equipment. And so I don't know if that's 1 helmet badge patch you get or a sticker on the helmet, 2 logos on the uniform. I don't mind 1. You want to put 1 on the opposite side. I get why you're doing it. Because here's what it comes down to, Steele. And I know a lot of fans are going to hate this. And at some point in time, you'll feel like an old guy because you start looking at the players man, they're young, and it's been a minute since I've been that guy. And you're that's not how the jersey looked when I wore it. That's not what I grew up watching. but I tell people, would you rather pay more or would you rather see a jersey on the logo? And that comes down to the question which you'd rather answer.
I'm okay with it. I'm not going to be that old fella saying, "Oh, that's not the way it used to be back in the day." I think that if it brings in more money to put in a couple logos, then by all means go ahead and do it. As long as it doesn't get to the point, it's kind of like a gateway drug where next thing you know, if it's not a number, then it's just a decal all around you. Like I don't want that.
I like how you put that, the gateway drug. That's a great, still that is a very great representation because everybody's trying to find dollars now. And I thought they would just approve for one logo, like one patch.
Mm-hmm.
They did give two, and then they also have the helmet patch. And you think about like the European, I know you're a citizen of the world still, you love all things everywhere. But like the soccer jerseys, you mentioned NASCAR, but like the soccer jerseys, like that's what they do, in Europe. And it is a little bit like the gateway drug because once people are going to pay you to put something on there, like, well, why not do more?
No, we don't need. Soccer's cool. I like the World Cup. That's going to be happening here in a little bit. But let's keep football. Let's not try to be more like soccer. That's not the sport that you want to be compared to.
That's amazing. You seem like a guy. Did you play any soccer growing up?
I got kicked out whenever I was 3. I tackled a little girl.
Little girl?
Yeah. I was 3, man. I didn't really know what gender was back then. I was just tackling people.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. So usually people play soccer till like 6 or 7 years old. I love the fact that you were in and out by the time you were 3. Was that the last soccer game you played? Is that what you're telling me?
Last soccer game I played, and then next thing you know, I was playing tackle football in Florida at 4 years old.
Really? So wait, did you grow up in Florida or did you always live in Atlanta then?
I was in Atlanta for like 3 or 4 years, and then I moved over to Florida, played football for like 3 years, and then came back.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Dude, I find something new about you every day, man.
I know. Learn something new every day.
Yeah, I had no idea that you were ever in Florida. I thought, most people, they move to Atlanta, like Atlanta's so big, people love it there, and they just kind of stay there. Where in Florida did you live?
Pensacola Beach, right in the Panhandle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love that area.
It was awesome over there. I was a little beach boy.
Yeah. Oh, I could see that, dude. Did you always have the long hair?
Always. I was born with basically just a big old fro. I look like an alien, apparently.
Oh, that's good stuff, man. That is good stuff. Yeah, I don't need it to be like European soccer. We don't need it to be NASCAR.
No.
I'm trying to think, too, like you don't want it to be jarring or overly disruptive. And I know people, we can get to this and start talking like who would they want to see Ohio State have as advertisements on the patches?
Ooh.
Because like you want a lot of people say stuff that they throw names out there. You want somebody that's going to kind of be red, gray, black, white. So it's not like something that's blue or green that really stands out. Now, if you're the company, you probably want it to stand out, but you also don't want the negative probably juice that comes with it where everyone says you've ruined the jerseys for us as well. Like nobody wants that.
Yeah. I don't know if it'd almost be doubling down since it's on the field. I would think that like Safe Light would be one, maybe like a Roosters. I think that'd be really cool. Get the guys some wings afterwards because they're wearing it on their chest. You could do that. God. I mean, especially in Columbus, there's just a bunch of massive Fortune 500 companies that you could just throw on there.
Yeah, there are decent. You mentioned Safe Light because they have like the black, the white, and the red. They're already on the field. I'm sure the financial commitment. I'm anxious to hear what that jersey patch is going to go for on a yearly basis.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think
that's a lot. That's some solid advertising.
I would imagine because it's not just for the home games. You're getting the away games too, CFP games like Big Ten championship, like national championship. The thing about the stadium is great, but on away games, you're not getting it. You're never going to get it for like a national championship. But Ohio State, you're talking about a team, and we'll get into this more tomorrow, some of the ratings and how everything looks. But the ratings have been huge for Ohio State, and they always are. So you're talking about something that's going to be seen in a normal game, by 6 to 7 to 10 million people. Whereas in like these bowl games, you're talking 25 plus potentially. I mean, the advertising there is huge. And so the dollars with that are also going to be huge in a big way. All right, we're going to put a pin in that. We'll come back to that because we've got some headlines coming up here. And before we get our tailgate talk, as well. So listen, I know it's Steele's first full show on here with us. So I fire away those questions. We can get some of those answered up and hopefully help him solve some of your problems, romantic inquiries or anything else. All that'll be there for you.
Oh, like a Dr. Oz.
There you go. Exactly. Come up here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. First, tell you about our friends at BackerBCKR.com. Speaking of gear, this is the elite fan gear that you want, the premium Buckeye jackets and hats. They've continued to add brands. They add colors and styles. It's the good-looking stuff that feels good and has functionality. It's like the high-grade stuff that you wear when you go fishing, skiing, golfing, whatever it is. All the features on there and all the functionality. Like I said, it looks good and feels good on you too. BCKR, that's backer.com. Go check it out. A portion of the proceeds does go to Ohio State to help the NIL fund as well. And use promo code all caps Bobby at checkout for extra 10% off. That's Backer BCKR. Headlines coming up next. I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. All right, now we're to our college football headlines, which are brought to you by Smart Choice Windows and Bath. It's interesting since we were talking a little bit about, transfer portal and everything else that's going on. Steele, I don't know if you saw this. There's a player at DeBonca, I think I just butchered his name, plays for Alabama. He played in the G League. He got drafted. Now he's coming back to play at Alabama again. I'm not sure how all of this works with what they're doing and players being eligible when they're playing professionally, then coming back a year or two later because they still have apparently a year or two of eligibility remaining. I don't want to see any stuff happen in football. We're already to a crazy tipping point, and we'll get to the Dabo Sweeney stuff tomorrow with everything that was happening with Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. But still, you're a guy that just left. You've been out here for a couple of years now, and it seems like roster construction, NIL, portal stuff, like what it was when you kind of had gotten in here, and then it kind of grew through your time. This stuff has just changed so wildly here in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and with no rules kind of attached to it, it feels like it's just become the Wild West. Whenever I got in, you would see transfers here and there. We had Justin Fields come in, and it was more so like you get a guy who maybe didn't play as much. Next thing you know, he's on a new team. He's going to stay there. But now that loyalty is just kind of out the window. Even if you've got a solid spot and you're starting for a team, you're looking for something else because there's money involved now. So it's just took a wild turn. I have no idea how they're going to sort of reel this back in because the ketchup's out the bottle. There's really no way to fix it at this point. So you kind of just got to start from scratch, lay out all the problems that are showing right now, and just figure out a way to just get it fixed because it's bad now.
I know the way to get it fixed. I'm not sure if it's out there. I know people have leaned in. They keep saying Congress is going to fix it, which I'm like, I don't know if they can fix anything. I don't know if they want to. I don't know if they have the desire. I'm just curious here, Steele, like when the coaches are going to ultimately sit down and say, this is what we need to do. You get the ADs, the administrators, because everybody is kind of just looking out for themselves. When I don't know, like as a sport, if everybody's has the best interest of like the game and even the players in mind, because it's great while these guys are making all this money. Mm-hmm. Do you think it would have been healthy for you to be transferring every year to a new school?
I don't think so, because especially with a lot of these young guys we're seeing at Ohio State, now the kind of question arises, are they doing it for the money, or is it one of those things where they're scared of a little competition? And that's a whole nother subject that kind of stems from whenever you're younger, that a lot of these younger generations are experiencing. They're just getting out there. They're kind of just bouncing around teams just to get on the field right away. and not experiencing the hardships of maybe being a backup and having to actually compete for a spot. So that's certainly something that could be involved in this. And then, of course, the money aspect. I truly don't know how you fix it, man. I hope Saban takes the reins on this thing and just says, you know what, I'm going to do things my way. And he lays out a whole new forefront and rules for college football.
You'd like to see something ultimately happen. I mean, you were so NIL wasn't a thing your freshman year, correct? Or was it?
It started up basically like at the end of my second year.
End of your second year. But it wasn't like as crazy as it is now, where these guys are getting paid a lot of money. I remember at the beginning, they're talking about trying to get 25 grand for like every player as they come through. And I look at that now relative to what people are asking and how it's being broken out. That seems like pocket change for all of this. Did you feel like the locker room changed at all during your time when this was starting to evolve?
I was never there whenever it truly got bad. Like whenever it first started, it was someone going out doing a commercial for some steak place and they get a steak dinner in exchange. So like it was pretty simple. But once I left, that's whenever you had a couple $1 million being thrown at guys. And I imagine at Ohio State, it wasn't that bad because just the culture as far as guys getting along, they'd understand like, okay, he's going to go get some money. Like I respect him. I'd still love him and everything. But now you're seeing it with like the Ole Miss situation. Like guys are starting to get pissed off because you got younger guys who haven't really shed blood for that program that are coming in and getting more money. And I'd be a little pissed, but I wouldn't let that be known to the locker room. But there's got to be a little animosity with it because if you got a freshman coming in, hasn't done anything, he's getting a couple $1 million and I'm sitting at $500K. That makes no sense to me.
And I think that's the problem that people are starting to have. Like you mentioned, just balancing that and trying to juggle that. What does it look like in the locker room? What does it look like on a relational basis? And like I've played here, I've made plays. Why is this guy getting more? And so the transparency of all that and trying to figure all that out still, it's some real great points. It's stuff that I don't know if we have good answers to. And that's why I'm pumped, for you to be a part of this now, because it's a much different perspective, because it did happen a little bit with you. Like I joke with people, I go, internet recruiting kind of started during my time. I think I was part of like the second or third, like ranked recruiting classes of how they did it, because still they didn't have the internet really to the degree that they did when I was younger. Well, once I got into high school, that's when they started doing the internet recruiting and the rankings and all of those things. And so that kind of changed how recruiting went and how people looked at guys. And like, they never did really stars to a big degree or anything before that, and ranked the classes with 24/7 and On3 and, everything that was out there. And so you got to see that. I got to watch the shift of having a cell phone my freshman year. Then like 2 years after I come back and I'm playing the NFL, coming back, and like people are taking pictures, like when you're out at bars and stuff, on like the first and second generation iPhones. And I'm out with like Heartline and Kirk Coleman and Marcus and those guys and Laurinaitis. And I was like, this is so weird. I'm like, yeah. And then like 3 years later, no one's going out anymore because they're filming everything. And it was just crazy. So like to watch those things happen. And so you were kind of right at the cusp of it. And now it's like something you don't even really recognize anymore. So I find it really interesting. So I'm excited to kind of have these conversations in small doses and keep talking about it as we move on. Got the chat pulled up here. We're going to take a quick break. Hopefully we'll get some folks firing away some questions in the chat. Maybe you're talking about Arthur Smith, anything you've got for Steele, whatever it is. It's his first day on the program, so I'm excited to kind of continue to roll with this. We got our tailgate talk coming up next. I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. All right, now we've got our tailgate talk, and we'll answer your questions here each and every day on the Bobby Carpenter Show. One of the things I just saw over here, Steele, before we get out of here, did you watch the Alex, I guess it's Hunold?
Dude, that gave me heartburn watching that.
You have seen it?
Yes. It's ridiculous.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm seeing some clips right here. They're throwing them up on McAfee, and he said it's a must watch. Like, how long does it take? Did you watch it all?
It was, I think, an hour and 27 minutes or something. And I mean, like, he's cool as ever doing it. And there was at one point, I mean, he just kind of like fit his legs between two little crevices, and he had no hands going on. I don't know if he has a death wish or something, but I mean, congrats that you found out you can do that. I don't know how you find that out, but
well, he's probably does a lot of like the free climbs, mostly on, I'm guessing, like rocks and like mountains where these guys usually do it. Not a lot of the urban climbers going on out there. Yeah. My hands are sweating like as I'm seeing those pictures and watching that, and I don't know. I'm going to probably have to have some drinks before I see it. What is it on, by the way? Is it on like what streaming platform?
It was live on Netflix.
Okay, so I'm sure I'll be able to pull that up. I'll probably have to wait till Friday night to watch that because I'm going to have to probably drink heavily to take the edge off of it. Even though knowing that he didn't fall, you were watching it live.
Watching it live, that was a different animal.
Yeah, that's wild. All right, let's go. Sorry, I popped into my head there and just wanted to talk a little bit. I figured that someone like you would have seen it. This is a great question was coming in here, though, from Mecca. Do you think Arthur Smith will be more creative, and how will it help the O-line? I think there will be some personnel stuff, and everybody I know hates the 13 and 14 personnel that they ran at times because we had such great receivers. So I think you'll probably won't see maybe quite as much as that, but maybe some 12. But if you go back and watch some of the things that Chip Kelly did, that's where he was so good in the run game, and he always had been. So I think with Arthur Smith, you'll probably see some more, as we've talked about, gap scheme runs that are more scheme and technique and moving people around, inserting guys into different gaps to try to help create different running lanes. And maybe some of that's due through formation and some of that's done through, shifting and motioning, and then also, just play design as well.
I mean, yeah, because a lot of it is kind of pre-snap where you might be running the same play multiple times, but you're doing it out of different looks. You could do that with motions. You could do that with different personnel types. And I think that's going to be a little wrinkle that he's going to be able to really add to this and help those O-linemen who I don't even think need help at this point. They're just slowly going to get better and better as the year goes on. So, yeah, I think Arthur Smith is definitely going to just be able to advance the run game a lot more for this Ohio State team.
Will be, and they have, like you mentioned, that offensive line. They got a lot of guys returning: Austin Saraveld, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, Philip Daniels, all coming back. Tiger Chabot entered the portal and left, but you do have Padilla, who was the backup center, played some guard. Gabe Van Sickle played some guard. Ian Moore, a guy they're very high on. So there could be a situation still where even kind of moving offensive linemen around and sliding, maybe, because people talk about Saraveld maybe being a better guard than tackle, but like out of necessity sometimes, man, you just do what you do for the squad. That might be a solution for him as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can do that throughout spring ball, to shuffle those guys around, see kind of what's the best combination that you can present to a defense, and then go from there. And then don't be afraid of just maybe taking out a lineman and just taking out a tight end and putting in another lineman. I mean, nothing wrong with a little extra beef. I mean, why not?
Well, it's
play around with it.
Because you saw that happen. A bunch of the teams in both conference championship games, they would go, they call it like 12T or 13T, where one of the tight ends is actually a tackle, masquerading as that. Because like we're putting them in the block, let's just get the best blockers. We can ultimately get in there anyway. We're going to put a quick pin in that. We're going to wrap up the show coming up next. As always, Schleggs' parting thoughts. I never told Steele this, but this is going to be part of your requirements, Steele. I'll tell you what it is here when we come back on the Bobby Carpenter Show. I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages. because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink garage beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage beer, beer flavored beer. All right, welcome back into the program. And now this is the time where I always have Steele Schleggs gives like his parting thoughts. He calls them side nuggets and just his little wisdom pearl gems of life, if you will. And it can be about anything you want. So I won't make you do that today on the spot. But just moving forward, to give you a couple minutes there at the end of the show, just kind of air out anything that you think you might want to give to the folks. I'm going to take this time. I'm going to answer a question from Sean the Hammer. Said, which one of the new recruits do you think Smith will have in the playbook immediately? I think the answer for that is probably Chris Henry Jr. because he's going to be a guy that they're expecting to play. With the departures of Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham, he's going to probably be the number 2 receiver or number 3, whatever you look at with Brandon Ennis and JJ out there. He's going to be getting a lot of run. And so I'm guessing he'll be someone that'll be there to get into it. So that is it for today's show. Good time here with our guy Steele. It's going to be a fun voyage with him as he continues to get more comfortable, get inundated into the program. We appreciate it. Stay warm out there, folks, if you're in the middle of America with snow and ice and everywhere else. And stay locked in as we'll catch up tomorrow on the Bobby Carpenter Show.